What's going on, everyone? By now I'm sure you're well aware of the Battle of Berkeley. I'm a couple days late as usual. If you don't know and you've been living under a rock, check the description bar. I'll post some stories, catch you up on it. Two things I want to bring up. One, it would appear that the passivity of the right wing is now over. Hell, not even just the right, partly the center too. That's the funny thing, is that this was sort of portrayed as a pro-Trump rally. Explicitly, it was not a pro-Trump rally explicitly, it was a pro-free speech rally, which implicitly does mean it's a pro-Trump rally, of course. But anyway, so Antifa's been around for a while, a couple of years now. I've seen some people say they think, they came around as a response to Trump. Not true. They predate Trump. I'll see if I can go find some articles written by, I think, a couple guys in the Occupy Wall Street movement who talked about them, and they were thugs then too, just like now. They've received no scrutiny from the press. I have never seen any elected official talk about them, to my knowledge. Probably some. Certainly none in the federal level. And they've been given, a free rein to use political violence to achieve a culture of intimidation and sort of to enforce political correctness, at the point of a, at the edges of a broken trash can, as they seem very fond of using, to throw fucking trash cans at people, like a bunch of, third grade punk rockers. Anyway, so for a while there was no real response, and I haven't seen anything that suggests or indicates that right-wing people are seeking out confrontations with them, but I have seen a lot of evidence that shows, or people are starting to be prepared now. They're bringing helmets. You have Based Stick Man, which is becoming he's become a meme now, and they're not willing to just sort of coyly and meekishly fall away whenever they start intimidating people, whenever they start insulting people. That's falling away now. A big motivation, or a big reason for that, is of course the fact that the police are no longer doing their job. They're certainly, in leftist part of these countries at least, the police in general are more conservative, more K-select types of individuals, but not the bureaucracy that controls them. So, I think it was Tim Pool, who's a sort of independent journalist, good guy. I would check him out, if I'm remembering his name right. I'll leave a link to his channel down below. And I think he went up and talked to some of these cops, and they all said, "My police chief told me to stand down," which is of course very eerily similar to what went down with Milo when he visited Berkeley and had a Antifa battalion show up. I think he had to end up fucking fleeing the vicinity through like an underground tunnel, like fucking Indiana Jones, for trying to give a speech at Berkeley University. And the police are not enforcing the law, which means that vigilantism will become more and more common. If the official institutional powers will not enforce the law, citizens will take it into their own hands. That's not an endorsement, and I'm not of vigilantism. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just pointing out the fact that when the official authority figures are not performing their function, well, that's still a function that needs to be performed, whether or not they do it. So people will just, they'll start coming with fucking shields, and giant sticks like Based Stick Man. They'll start bringing pepper spray. They'll start bringing medical supplies to deal with being pepper sprayed, and they'll have to watch out for, falling bricks that Antifa likes to throw around. Now, the first point is related to the second observation I have, which is that these things can only happen so many times before somebody brings an Uzi or a handgun or some shit like that and starts staring into a crowd. You can only get lucky so many times, folks. Each time these incidents occur, it's a bit of a Russian roulette game. And now, this might be my bias showing, but I do think it will be Antifa that escalates it to that effect, because that's generally the pattern that it's been so far. They usually use a lot of emotional intimidation, calling you sexist, racist, whatever, calling you names to get you to do what they want. And with Trump, the right wing started to not do that, started to be more assertive and more confident in their ideas. And then they responded with sort of petty violence, assaulting people, beating the shit out of people, etc. And now the right wing is starting to evolve. Right-wingers are starting to evolve and to deal with these thugs, and they're now they're matching them essentially. Like, okay, you're gonna bring fucking pepper spray, we'll bring sticks. I know I keep going to the sticks. It's just I didn't know about Stickman until like 3 days ago, and I've loved the memes. What can I say? We'll bring shields, but the interesting thing is that no one's bringing a gun yet, and it's only a matter of time. And no one's bringing a knife. They're using secondary weapons, if you will. They're kind of pulling shit from their living rooms and their garages, and they're using that to defend themselves. It can only happen so many times before eventually someone starts, before we get like some sort of massacre situation. It only takes one, and I don't even think that most, it doesn't even have to be the case that most Antifa people support it or would, intend to do that. It only takes one guy. Another reason why I think it'll be Antifa that starts it is because the cops have been very stringent on, checking the, Trump supporters, or not even the Trump supporters, because again, this wasn't a Trump rally, explicitly. It was a free speech rally. They patted people down, they made sure nobody had any weapons, and they, they told them, okay, don't worry, we'll protect you. They of course didn't. Which means that Antifa had an unfair advantage in, in material and material equipment. So if Trump supporters start getting more, assertive and start preparing more, I think the cops will start policing them more, because that's what their fucking bureaucratic masters want. And look, I am generally pretty pro-police. I have some criticisms. I'm not a fucking drone that's just gonna ooh, blue lives matter, no matter what they fucking do. But yeah, nominally I'm pro-police. I think they're, generally pretty good people. But, again, even if they're generally more, K on their own time, they're more right-wing, the bureaucracies that control them, especially in these leftist areas, are the complete opposite. You can't fight the left with the government, because the left is government. They will just take control of institutions and subvert them over time. That's why it's a lot better to just destroy the institutions altogether so that nobody can use it. But anyway, that's probably getting off in a bit of a tangent. So, yeah, it's a game of Russian roulette. I'm starting to wonder if this is what it was like in Weimar Germany. That's the kind of obvious comparison, right? Godwin's law, always have to bring it all back to the Nazis. But there is definitely a surface observation that's very valid here. The center is dying. The centrists are not able to keep the extremes away from each other. Now I say that like it's a bad thing, but truthfully, I'm not in love with the idea of that the center is magically good. I think it's a bit of a fallacy. If it's like someone comes up to you and says, I think the answer is 2. And the other guy says, I think the answer is 4. I think it's fallacious thinking to then presume that, the clearly good answer must be 3. No. Maybe the good answer is 2. Maybe the correct answer is 4. Maybe it is 3. I don't think the middle, there's no wisdom in the middle. And the problem is, I think why centrism tends to fall apart is that in the end you end up making no one really satisfied. It's very hard to get a meaningful compromise with people, especially if they have very different aspirations and very different goals in mind. And we have, the right and the left they have different visions. They have very different values now. There's very little overlap. It's too much diversity of thought. Huh. There it goes again. Diversity is not such a good thing, is it? But yeah, in order to have a coherent society, you need to have people agree on certain fundamental principles. You know, too much diversity of thought is not a good thing. I know that sounds like I'm group thinking people or whatever, or not, thought policing. No, I'm not saying that you can't have a different opinion, but on the macro societal scale, we all need to kind of come from the same page. But we've declined from that very significantly in a very short amount of time, in the last 2 to 3 years now. It's kind of like you have two doctors, right? And they're all dealing with a patient. A functional society will be able to look at that patient, determine the problem, and then argue about solutions. And that's like the best you can get. But what's worse than that, and when you start to get a lot of friction, a lot of distrust between the sides, is that you have two doctors, same situation. They have a patient, and something's wrong, but they can't agree on what the illness is. And since they can't agree on what the illness is, they can't move on to solutions. I think America right now is worse than that. America has two doctors looking at a patient. One is saying this guy's gonna fucking die tomorrow, and the other guy's saying he's totally fine. What are you talking about? It's not even what the illness is. You can't even agree that there is a problem. The far left can't even agree that immigration, is an issue, period. Or even that, well, I would say all immigration should be closed. We're full, we should pull up the drawbridge. But even illegal immigration, they still don't see that as a problem. If they saw it as a problem, then we could argue about solutions. So yeah, we're very divided. Berkeley is a symptom of that. We're starting to, the capacity to have a dialogue is really starting to decline. I don't know what to say. I mean, because on the one hand, that's not a great thing, right? Like, that's not the ideal. But this idea that you can just keep kicking the problem, down the road and never have some sort of confrontation, I don't know. Like, maybe we need a little bit of extremism for a while, and sort of hash these problems out. Because I think, the sooner we get it over with, and the sooner we just, have, and I'm not talking about war, or something like that. I mean, like, no, you're fucking wrong, and, your ideology needs to be discredited. At the heart of this culture war is, I think, it's two ideologies that, there's, or maybe not even ideologies, ideology and identity. It's a push and a pull. These two things can't really coexist together, and it needs to be discredited. And I don't think secession, if you're curious, I'm going off way on tangents here. I don't think secession would be a great idea either, because ideologically, it wouldn't discredit the problem. It would, again, kick it down the road. So, this needs to be hashed out in the public sphere. We need to be kind of angry at each other for a while. I wish it wasn't the case, but I'm not sure how else to solve it. I'm kind of rambling now. Sorry about that. So that's about all I got to say on Berkeley. If you're a Trump supporter, if you're a dirty Nazi, and you go to one of these things, fucking go in a group. Like, you go in a group or go in a pair of people. Don't go by yourself. Certainly don't go unprepared. Especially if you're like me and you live in a fucking, lefty state like New York. Fucking watch yourself, alright? But anyway, that's about all I got. Let me know what you think in the comments. Peace out.